10 inmates vanished into the night, through a hole behind a toilet. On the wall, they left a taunt. "Too easy, LOL." Now, just days later, a jail maintenance worker, Sterling Williams, has been arrested. He admitted to turning off the water in the cell, enabling the inmates to remove the toilet and access the escape route. The FBI is now treating this as a coordinated operation, with multiple arrests made for aiding the escapees. As of May 23rd, 5 fugitives remain at large, and the manhunt continues. On May 16, 2025, at approximately 12:23 a.m., 10 inmates escaped from the Orleans Parish Prison in New Orleans. They removed a sink toilet unit from a cell, crawled through a hole behind it, and exited the facility. Surveillance footage captured them fleeing through a loading dock, scaling a wall, and running across Interstate 10. The escape went unnoticed until a routine head count at 8:30 a.m., giving the fugitives a significant head start. As of May 23rd, 5 of the escapees have been recaptured, while 5 remain at large. The incident has intensified scrutiny on the Orleans Parish Prison, which has been under federal oversight since 2013 due to past violence and neglect. Sheriff Susan Hudson acknowledged severe deficiencies in surveillance and staffing, highlighting the urgent need for repair of the jail and more staffing. The escape has prompted a full-scale investigation, with multiple arrests made for aiding the escapees. Authorities continue to pursue leads to apprehend the remaining fugitives. Among the 10 escapees from the Orleans Parish Prison on May 16, 2025, 3 individuals stood out due to their backgrounds and the roles they played in the escape. Damon "Tank" Reese was known for his involvement in armed robbery and had established connections with local gangs. His criminal history and affiliations made him a high-priority target for law enforcement. Luis Ortega, a convicted hacker, brought a different set of skills to the group. His expertise in technology and previous convictions for cybercrimes suggested he could have been instrumental in planning the escape, possibly manipulating surveillance systems or communication channels. Calvin James, on the other hand, had a record of nonviolent offenses. Some investigators speculated that he might have served as a decoy during the escape, diverting attention or assisting in logistical aspects without direct involvement in violent activities. The charges among the escapees varied, with several facing serious accusations such as murder, armed robbery, and domestic abuse. Others were held on lesser charges, but the collective escape underscored significant security lapses within the facility. The escape route was through Unit C3 of the prison, where the inmates managed to remove a sink toilet unit, revealing a hole in the wall behind it. This passage led them through a maintenance area, eventually allowing them to exit the building. Surveillance footage later showed the inmates fleeing across Interstate 10. Adding to the audacity of their escape, the inmates left graffiti messages near the hole, including the phrase, "Too easy, LOL." This taunt quickly went viral, drawing widespread attention to the escape and prompting public outcry over the prison's security measures. The incident has led to multiple investigations and arrests, including that of a jail maintenance worker who admitted to aiding the escapees. The ongoing manhunt for the remaining fugitives continues to be a top priority for law enforcement agencies. At approximately 12:22 a.m. on May 16, 2025, surveillance cameras at the Orleans Parish Prison captured several inmates forcing open a cell door. By 12:43 a.m., multiple inmates had entered the cell, removed a combination sink toilet unit, and created a hole in the wall behind it. They sawed through steel bars and accessed a maintenance corridor, eventually fleeing through a loading dock and scaling a fence to escape the facility. The escape went unnoticed until a routine head count at 8:30 a.m., over 8 hours later. This delay provided the fugitives with a significant head start. In the days following the escape, authorities arrested a jail maintenance worker, Sterling Williams, who admitted to turning off the water in the cell, enabling the inmates to remove the toilet and access the escape route. Williams was charged with multiple felonies, including malfeasance in office. Additionally, 2 other individuals were arrested and accused of aiding the escapees. The Louisiana State Police announced these arrests on May 21, 2025. Investigators discovered evidence suggesting the escape was well planned. Items found included burner phones, tools, and food storage, indicating the inmates had assistance and resources prepared for their flight. The manhunt for the remaining fugitives involved over 200 law enforcement officers from federal, state, and local agencies. Authorities established roadblocks, deployed drones, and relied on community tips to track down the escapees. Public reaction to the escape was intense. Parents protested outside the jail, expressing concern over the facility's security failures. The phrase, "too easy, Lowell," scrawled by the inmates near the escape route, went viral on social media platforms like TikTok, symbolizing the perceived systemic failures within the prison system. The incident has prompted widespread scrutiny of the Orleans Parish Prison's operations and has raised questions about the adequacy of its security measures. Investigations are ongoing to determine the full extent of internal involvement and to prevent future breaches. Behind the scenes of this shocking prison break lies a web of systemic failures that stretch back years. In a 2023 state audit, Orleans Parish Prison was flagged for severe overcrowding, with inmate numbers regularly exceeding capacity by nearly 40%. The report detailed crumbling infrastructure, outdated plumbing, broken surveillance cameras, and decaying walls, making the facility vulnerable to breaches. Internal documents obtained through the Department of Corrections reveal urgent emails from correctional officers months before the escape. Guards pleaded for increased staffing, better equipment, and improved security protocols. One email, sent just 6 weeks prior to the breakout, warned supervisors about significant gaps in supervision in Units C3 and C4 during night shifts. Despite these clear signals, little was done. On May 17th, the mayor of New Orleans held a somber press conference. "We failed the people of New Orleans," she admitted, her voice heavy with regret. This escape exposed not only flaws in our jail system, but the consequences of long-term neglect and underfunding. Simultaneously, the Orleans Parish Sheriff announced a full internal investigation to identify who within the department may have been complicit. He confirmed that 2 deputies assigned to the unit where the escape occurred have been suspended pending review. These suspensions raise serious questions about potential insider involvement, intensifying scrutiny of prison staff and their oversight. The revelations have sparked outrage across the city. Families of inmates fear for their loved ones, staff demand safer working conditions, and politicians scramble to address a crisis that has laid bare the fragility of the local justice system. The question remains, how could so many warnings be ignored? And how deep does the corruption or negligence go? This isn't just about an escape, it's about a system pushed to its breaking point. In the days following the escape, the investigation has moved at a relentless pace, leading to several major breakthroughs. On May 20th, authorities apprehended one of the fugitives in Kenner, Louisiana, after a failed attempt to break into a residential home. Surveillance footage captured him trying to pry open a window, desperate and cornered. His arrest was a critical blow to the escape network, providing fresh leads. Meanwhile, another escapee is believed to have crossed state lines, heading west into Texas under a stolen identity. Using forged documents and fake IDs, investigators say he has been trying to blend into new communities, avoiding detection by law enforcement. The manhunt now spans multiple states, complicating efforts to bring all 10 fugitives back into custody. Crucially, investigators have confirmed inside help played a decisive role. A prison staffer, arrested earlier this week, has confessed to accepting payments through Cash App from one or more inmates in exchange for smuggling tools and information. This admission confirms what many suspected, that the escape was not merely a matter of inmates exploiting weak infrastructure, but a coordinated effort aided by corrupt insiders. Adding to the intrigue, authorities leaked a recorded jail phone call from one of the captured escapees. In the chilling audio, the inmate says plainly, "We were the bait." The meaning of this statement has sent shock waves through the community and law enforcement alike, raising questions about the true purpose behind the breakout. Families of the escapees have begun speaking out. One relative, a sister of an inmate still at large, told reporters, "My brother was used. Someone powerful wanted this to happen." Her words hint at a deeper conspiracy, one that may involve figures beyond the prison walls. The public response is a mixture of fear, anger, and disbelief. Social media is flooded with theories, debates, and calls for justice, while officials vow to uncover every link in this complicated chain. As the manhunt continues, the the case grows darker and more complex. Each new revelation seems to pull back the curtain on a far-reaching operation with layers yet to be uncovered. As the investigation unfolds, many are left wondering, do you believe this escape was an inside job? The evidence points toward coordinated help from within the prison walls. Staffers caught accepting payments, key doors left unsecured, and critical security lapses all add weight to this theory. But could it have happened without the involvement of those trusted to keep order? Among the 10 escapees, one name keeps coming up: Damon "Tank" Reese. Known for his gang ties and violent past, many say he had the plan all along. But what about Luis Ortega, the convicted hacker who could manipulate systems from behind bars? And Calvin James, the nonviolent inmate suspected by investigators of acting as a decoy? Which one do you think planned this entire operation? As the city scrambles to track down the fugitives, neighborhoods buzz with nervous energy. Imagine discovering one of these escapees is hiding just a few blocks from your home. What would you do if you found out someone on the run was living right next door? Would you call the police immediately or stay quiet out of fear? Meanwhile, the fallout is far-reaching. 2 deputies have been suspended, and a female prison staffer remains in custody for providing material aid. Should prison staff who enabled this escape face criminal charges? Many argue it's the only way to hold the system accountable and prevent a tragedy like this from happening again. This story is still developing, but one thing is clear. The lines between inside help and inmate cunning have blurred in a way few imagined. Your thoughts could shed light on what's next. So tell us, what do you really think about the biggest prison break New Orleans has seen in decades? Behind the thick concrete walls of Orleans Parish Prison, a complex underground network thrived. Inmates communicated through coded messages passed during meals, whispered conversations during yard time, and even subtle hand signals. Prison gangs played a significant role, controlling trade networks for contraband phones, tools, and information. But here's the question. Did other inmates know about the escape plan? And if they did, why did so many stay silent? Fear, loyalty, or careful calculation? Veteran investigators believe the conspiracy ran deep, involving not just the escapees, but a web of prisoners and staff alike. The prison's security cameras were supposed to be a deterrent, but when investigators reviewed the footage, they found critical gaps. Entire hours of surveillance from Unit C3, the exact block where the escape hole was dug, were missing or corrupted. An alarm sensor designed to alert guards if a door was tampered with was found to be faulty and hadn't been repaired for months. And routine inspections, meant to catch such vulnerabilities, were often bypassed or rushed. This was no simple lapse. It pointed to a systemic breakdown that allowed the escape to unfold under the noses of prison staff. Technology, once thought to be a prison's enemy, became the inmate's greatest ally. Contraband cell phones, smuggled in through visits and supply deliveries, enabled real-time coordination. Inmates used encrypted messaging apps, some so discreet they left no digital footprint. Network tracking, which law enforcement uses to trace signals, was skillfully avoided through signal jammers and strategic phone usage. This level of tech-savvy planning baffled officials, showing how the digital world had become intertwined with prison life in unexpected ways. As news of the escape spread, New Orleans neighborhoods near the prison went into lockdown. Schools tightened security, local businesses boarded up windows, and residents reported suspicious activity. Rumors raced through social media, some true, many exaggerated, feeding public anxiety. Interviews with residents revealed a city on edge, parents worried about their children, workers fearful of random violence, and neighbors scanning every stranger. The media coverage amplified the panic, but also raised hard questions about prison conditions and public safety. The political fallout was swift and fierce. The governor issued an emergency order directing additional state resources to assist local law enforcement. The New Orleans City Council convened an emergency session and voted to reallocate $5 million toward upgrading prison security systems and staffing. Meanwhile, protesters gathered outside City Hall, chanting about decades of neglect and systemic decay. The mayor publicly admitted, "We failed the people of New Orleans," promising accountability but facing intense scrutiny over leadership failures. Among those captured, stories emerged that challenged the straightforward narrative. One escapee's lawyer argued that his client was entrapped, coerced into the escape plan under duress. Rumors surfaced of a plea deal offered in exchange for testimony about inside accomplices. Leaked FBI communications hinted at a bigger target, someone with influence beyond the prison walls, possibly orchestrating the operation. Family members of the fugitives expressed shock and disbelief, some claiming their loved ones were pawns in a larger game. The public response was sharply divided. Online, hashtags like #FreeThe10 and #PrisonBreakTruth trended, with some communities viewing the escapees as folk heroes, exposing an unjust system. Local activist groups organized protests demanding sweeping prison reform and better conditions for inmates. Others condemned the escapees as dangerous criminals, emphasizing the threat to public safety. This split in opinion highlighted broader debates about justice, punishment, and rehabilitation in America's correctional system. What drives someone to risk everything in an escape attempt? Experts point to a combination of trauma, desperation, and the harsh realities of prison life. Many inmates endure overcrowding, violence, and little hope for release. Psychologists interviewed note that while some prisoners actively plan the breakout, others may have been swept along by fear or coercion. Understanding the mental and emotional state of these individuals sheds light on the human cost behind headlines and statistics. 3 escapees remain unaccounted for. Authorities suspect one is hiding in remote areas of Louisiana, another may have crossed into Texas using a stolen identity, and the most elusive is believed to be in Mexico, possibly preparing to flee further abroad. Law enforcement continues to monitor border crossings, issue alerts, and work with federal agencies. With every passing day, the urgency to capture these fugitives grows, as does concern over their potential danger to communities near and far. 3 escapees remain at large. One is believed to have slipped across the border, vanishing beyond reach. Their final message, "Too easy, LOL," etched behind a toilet, wasn't just graffiti. It was a provocation, a taunt thrown directly at the city and its authorities. New Orleans heard it loud and clear. As the manhunt drags on, questions deepen. Who else was involved? What secrets remain hidden behind those prison walls? And what happens if the others slip away again? If you think there's more to uncover, hit that like button. Subscribe now to stay locked in for every twist and turn in this story, and drop your theory in the comments. Was this escape just the beginning?